Good morning.
Welcome aboard the Morning Express. It is Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning, the second day of the week, and we're super excited to be with you on radio once again. This is Mainland 98.3 FM, like I said before, your one-stop shop for everything information, for everything politics, current affairs, anything that has to do with national development. We would have that conversation on here with our array of programs where we have experts join to give their insight on matters of national importance. Well, for this morning, as I said before, some of our key objectives is to provide you with news. What we're doing right this very moment is to keep you up to speed with reports that have made it to the front pages of our dailies, and we call this particular part of the Morning Express Trends in the Papers. And just like the name depicts, we're basically keeping you up to speed with trending stories across the papers, stories that have made it to the front pages, which sort of can be news stories or developing stories. Basically, it's our job not to present that story to you, or not just to present that story to you, but also to sort of open up the conversation further and help you to explore various angles, and maybe even open your mind to certain parts of the stories that you probably did not catch your attention. My name once again is Sage Babalola. Now, we do not only operate on terrestrial radio. We do understand that geography can be a problem sometimes when it comes to listening to radio, which is why we've created an opportunity for everyone, regardless of what part of the world that you're currently residing, to join the program, to listen and also to contribute. You can of course listen first of all via your terrestrial radio at Mainland 98.3 FM, or you can listen to us via the Radio Garden app or the website. Just access the Radio Garden app and search for the station Mainland 98.3 FM, and you can listen to us from any part of the world. You can also listen via Facebook and YouTube. Those apps are functional across the globe. So go to Facebook, go to YouTube. You can search Mainland 98.3 FM. If you're using Facebook, you could do facebook.com/Mainland 98.3 FM. For YouTube, just search the station and you can join the live stream. For contribution, would make that information available to you as we go ahead to Mainland Focus. But for now, those are the channels through which you can listen to us. With regards to analysis, like I said earlier, it's not just about presenting the stories. We would have further conversations about these headlines, and for our side, our in-house analysts will be joining via the phone as we begin to review the stories on the front page of The Guardian, The Punch and Vanguard newspaper in no particular order. Let's say our good mornings and kickstart conversation here on Mainland 98.3 FM. Don't forget, you are listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland FM. Fuad Side, good morning to you. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Sage. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. It's nice to talk to you again. All right, well, trends in the papers. Before I start to look at the stories on the front pages, very, very sad forward. We've been following through, the papers have been trying to give us the development when it comes to the fire, the tanker explosion in Niger State. So, unfortunately, the death toll has risen. We currently now have 98 persons that have been pulled out from that fire. Well, if I say pulled out, it makes it sound like they survived. Well, 98 bodies have been pulled out from that particular inferno, and like I said yesterday, mass burials are going on. So the more bodies they're able to pull out, they proceed to bury them, especially because they cannot be identified. So usually keeping a body would be so the families can at least make an attempt to claim the body, but now how do you even identify who is your relative or who is who? So mass burials are ongoing, but I just thought to give an update on the issue. As at Sunday it was 86, but right now we now have 98 persons that have been confirmed dead in that inferno. What?
So sad. I think the reports are also saying that about 50 something others are still
in the hospital, critical
receiving
positions,
treatment, in different hospitals in the state. And what that indicates is that the casualty figures might go up. We have 98 now, most likely it's going to cross the 100 mark. And so sad, because these are actually avoidable deaths. These are deaths that are needless. And like I told you yesterday, in one of the newspaper reports, it was said that the last 4 months, more than 250 Nigerians have died from situations like this. Falling tanker, people trying to scoop well, it burst into flames, and then you have this mass avoidable death. Very, very sad, 98 people. But the question is this stage. Are we just going to talk about it? We give out the figures. The government will do mass burials, commensurate with the families. Statements will be issued, and then we'll move on with our normal lives, waiting for another one to happen. Because what it has shown is that, look, at that particular spot where this unfortunate incident happened, if another one happens today, people are still going to make an attempt to scoop fuel. I can tell you that for free. If it happens this minute that we are talking about, despite what we are saying on radio, despite what has been said, and all of the things that have been said about the dangers of trying to scoop fuel from a falling tanker, if it happens today in any part of Nigeria, you can be rest assured that people are still going to do the same thing. I know we've seen videos, although not verified, of how the thing happened. And just imagine how bad things are getting for people to the point where they don't even care about their lives. Because it's almost like a suicide mission. See, for you to try to want to scoop fuel from a falling tanker that's carrying PMS, not diesel. And just imagine what has happened. And that's why I said yesterday that, look, the conversation should now be, how do we transport these products safely from the roadworthiness of the vehicles to the drivers themselves, people handling the vehicle. Something has to be done. And if there's no falling tanker, there can't be any attempt to scoop fuel.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody hijacking a moving PMS tanker and trying to take products from it. It's only when it falls that these things happen. So how do we ensure we don't have situations of falling tanker everywhere? It's almost like in Nigeria alone that you have stories like this. Don't know anywhere in the world where it comes into the news that, look, a tanker falls, people are trying to scoop fuel, and a situation of mass death. So something has to be done on how we transport these products.
Well, I do agree with you, and aside from that, orientation needs to happen. It's safety first. A tanker falls down, it is not a call for you don't rush towards fire, you run away from fire.
I think they will not listen. They will not. They will not listen. Don't you think we should just conclude that, look, these things would happen if a tanker falls again?
I mean,
they won't listen.
I don't disagree with you. The back-to-back deaths is evidence of the refusal to actually listen, but it's very, very sad. 98 families who are probably grieving at this moment, and chances are amongst the 98 we have siblings, somebody who had called his brother, there's a tanker, let's go together. Exactly. So you might have gone with the brother or their sister, so chances are their family that will be grieving multiple losses at this time. Very, very sad there, I should say. Anyways, we're going straight to the stories for today. Oh, please forgive me. And you might say, why is so interested in America this last couple of days? It's just a lot of interesting things are going on there. Unfortunately, we cannot do global view today, but Fuad, there have been there have been conversations around the readiness of Trump, or if structures within America would allow Trump to go on ahead with his clampdown, all of the many threats that he made, or promises that he made before his inauguration. But Fuad, in less than 10 hours or 8 hours of his inauguration, the whole immigration conversation has come up. For example, the CPB app is a website that was put up by the Biden administration. It sort of guides immigrants on what they're supposed to do, the processes they're supposed to follow, and how they can come into the country. Fred, I'm telling you, that website is down. They actually put up some sort of something of an advisory, if I can call it that, or a memo that the app will not be available anymore. In fact, the statement reads in part that effective from the 20th of January, which was yesterday, that the functionality of that app that usually allowed undocumented aliens, and this is me reading verbatim, that the app the services that usually allowed undocumented aliens to submit advance information and schedule appointment at 8 Southwest Border Port of Entry is no longer available, and existing appointments have been cancelled. So individuals that had submitted, immigrants that had submitted their application and all that, and they've been unable to go for their interview before yesterday, all the appointments have been cancelled and they're no longer taking individuals anymore. He had a conversation about the whole LGBT thing and said, as it stands, they're only male, female in this country. So all the transgender people in the Navy, in the Army, in public service, your services are no longer required. Goodbye. Even regarding trade, he has started to say a lot of things about trade, production, the relationship he would have with China moving forward. And if Wadim begs the question again, are we sure that structures in America will be strong enough to stop Trump this time around?
Well, mixed feelings for me, really, Sage, on this Trump conversation. because half of the things Trump, or almost everything he said on his inauguration day, were the promises he made to Americans that gave him that landslide victory. See, that overwhelming victory. I don't know, maybe I'll try and have a conversation with Barrister Curtis, but I don't know if there's any president that have been re-elected that won all the 7 swing states in the history of America. He took it all, among even the Latino voters, the black voters, so it was an overwhelming victory, really. And you would expect that, look, if you get that kind of victory, you want to try and fulfill your promises to people that have voted for you. One of the key promises of Donald Trump, even from his first term, has been his attempt to solve the immigration issue. It's a problem that America all agrees to, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. We always talk about the immigration crisis in the United States. The approach is what is different. While the Democrats are a bit liberal, you understand about the approach. Okay, if you come in, you have a pass, to proper documentation. The Republicans in recent time, especially with Donald Trump's position, has been that of, look, if you come in illegally, we'll take you back illegally. So we take you back legally. And the legal process is that, look, since you came in as an alien, we don't know you, you cannot get, to be documented. And that's what he started to do. He's talked about, erecting again the fences around the southern borders. He talked about sending troops to the southern border. He's also talked about mass deportation. So these were the promises he made to Americans, and you expect that, look, he's going to make an attempt to fulfill it. Like when we say every election has consequences. Hispanics, people of color, blacks who are themselves immigrants, who somehow have been able to get themselves documented, also voted for Donald Trump, who had promised to deport illegal immigrants. So they listened to him and they still voted for him. And that's why I think that, look, it's a matter of Americans really to deal with. And the statement is simple, says, if you want to go to the United States now, be sure that you have all your relevant papers, be well documented. And it's not only in the US. There's cultural anxiety in most parts of Europe and the Western world. This idea of, aliens are coming to take our job, they are coming to take our place. And you see that consistently, politicians in America, in Europe, the West are taking advantage of that cultural anxiety. They ventilate it. Look at what has happened to Justin Trudeau. It's still about immigration.
Yeah.
The fact that they felt that, look, he threw the borders of Canada open to too much people to come in. The same thing is the same conversation you have in France, the same conversation you have in the United Kingdom, and most part of Europe at this time. Unfortunately for the United States, it's a country of immigrants. Even the people that are talking about migration as a problem, were originally from even the United States. They also migrated from different parts of the world to the United States. So, but again, this is the ultimate question for me. Why are we disturbed about the policies of the US? Yes, it's a country that has serious implications for global politics and global issues. But can we also talk to our own leaders? Can't we just make our own country work for us again? Let's be proud to be Nigerian. I was telling a friend yesterday, do you think Singaporeans, for example, will be bothered that Trump wants to shut his borders and push out illegal immigrants? Do you think the Emiratis, for example, the people of the UAE, Dubai, will be bothered about whether Trump wants to deport people? If their own people are going to go to the US, they'll be going there for holidays to enjoy themselves. It is leadership failure that is even making us talk about these things. We can be better. It might not be in terms of infrastructure and technology, but living standards can get to the point where Nigerians who've been trooping out of their country as if we're in a war situation. So it's there for leaders to take the message and understand that, look, because of this cultural anxiety, countries all over the world that have done well for their own people are not going to be allowed people to troop in as it used to be in the past. So what then should be done? Take care of yourselves, develop your own country, make the resources of the people work for them, and then look inward. So that's it. On the issue of the LGBTQ, I like that. That's one reason why you say a lot of people supporting Trump.
Of course you do.
Yeah, I like that one. All this nonsense, LGBTQ, all this. The fact that he can even say that, look, it's only male and female gender, it is one reason why you see millions of people all over the world pushing for Donald Trump, because the madness has got to stop. it's a mental health issue. It's crazy. It's sickening to even hear. It's gotten to the point where there's no end to it again. Say.
Yeah.
You used to think it's LGBT.
It's now plus.
Yeah, there's so many things now.
Yeah, LGBTQ plus.
And then the plus is endless. The madness is endless. So it's nice to see that there's a leader that can tell them to their face that look, the rubbish has got to stop, and it must stop.
Well, that's that about America's politics. I'm sure on Political Roundtable on Sunday, the conversations will be expanded, what to expect with Trump's administration and the effect it would have with countries, maybe even our relationship with America, and by ripple effect, our economy, especially because of our dependence on Western structures, so to speak. Anyways, now to national issues. We have quite a lot of things to talk about this morning. It still trends in the papers on mainland 98.3 FM. I'm Sage Babalola. I'm here conversing with Fᴜʟʟ, and we're about to now look at our dailies: Punch, Guardian, Vanguard newspaper. Let's actually start conversations by looking at the Punch newspaper. And speaking of national issues, for the Punch this morning is telling us 50% tariff hike. Nigerians may spend 6.74 trillion on calls. Well, dare I say that our biggest fears have actually come to fruition. I'm trying to pull up that report at this moment, but as conversations are progressing forward regarding how much money we're going to spend when it comes to accessing telco's service, the report tells us that a 50% hike has been approved by telcos. So we're going to spend 50% more, or the increment for the tariff is now 50%, although we do have the Telecom Subscribers Association that is deciding to approach the law because they think that this would further impoverish Nigerian. But the NCC has approved a 50% increase in call tariffs on Monday, which may raise the average cost of phone calls to about 16.5 naira per minute. And yes, the law does allow for them to review their tariffs, although the projection excludes the impact of free and discounted call promotions, which may alter actual revenue figures. The projection of how much money they are going to make following the implementation of this 50% tariff hike is about 6.74 trillion naira in revenue for telecom operators in 2025. Those are the calculations of how much money they'll most likely make. So there's a breakdown of service providers, the most prominent service providers, and what their revenue is going to be based on the amount of phone calls that were made. Now, as of 2023, at least 2 billion minutes of phone calls were made. So the calculation by the amount of phone calls that were made in 2023, that's what they're using to predict how much money these telcos service will gain. So phone calls, basically, let me break it down. Phone calls will go from 11 naira to about 16.3 naira. Also, SMS will go from 4 naira to 6 naira. That's how much money we'll be spending. There's something in here about how much money we'll spend on data, though, and I'm also trying to pull that up so we know how much we're buying gigabytes. But whilst I source for that forward, this is our new reality. Following the implementation of the 50% tariff increase, we're going to go from spending 11 naira per minute to about 16.5 naira per minute, and also from 4 naira for one SMS, we're going to start spending 6 naira for one SMS, and the telcos are hoping to get at least 6.47 trillion naira in revenue following the implementation. Is this a fair deal?
Sage, I don't know what's fair now, really.
I mean, at least now we have specific figures, right?
Yeah, the figures, yes, but the operational cost is the most important part of the conversation here, and that's the only way we can now say, okay, this is fair or unfair. Because yes, we have the figures for the services, but what is the cost of providing the service? If you understand what I'm saying, what does it cost them to be able to provide the service to us? That's the operational cost. So until we have all of that on the table, it might be difficult really for us to say, okay, what they are charging us is fair or unfair. We only hope that the NCC that approved this 50% tariff hike had done the proper calculations to be spent. And again, I also expect that the PCCPC or so, the Price Control Protection Council, would also have checked this and ensure that Nigerians are not being ripped off. Although we had this conversation yesterday, the suggestion was that it's going to be between 30 to 60% hike. Now, I think it's almost like a middle ground. Okay, they are 50%. But I can tell you that, look, it will be extremely, extremely unfair to say the telcos do not have a right, or justifiably so, to put one or two things on their charges. Whereas we are in this country, we've seen how things are ballooned out of control. Prices have gone through the roof. food, inflation, and so they are also operating in the same environment. They've talked about the fact that, look, if this tariff increment does not happen, they probably have to shut down their operations. I don't think Nigerians want to see that happen, because communication itself is life. See, we talk about the three most important things, like the essentials of life: food, clothes, and shelter. I can tell you that at this point, probably also have to have communication. People have to talk. Yes, you need food, you need clothes, you need shelter, but just imagine that there are no platforms, there are no opportunities for people to communicate, using this technology. So it has become an integral part of our lives. You don't expect to have a shutdown, a complete disruption, and so whatever will sustain these services, we must do. What will happen is that, look, Nigerians have to find a way to manage. Like I always said, find a way to take care of yourself. If you don't have a reason to call, don't call. Your data usage, try to manage it. So you probably have to reduce your time on social media watching all manner of inanities and irrelevant things. So it's again the reality that Nigerians have to live with. Everything keeps going up. Nothing has been brought down. Nothing has been devalued. It's just what it is. So again, the admonition would be for Nigerians to find a way to take care of themselves, live with these current realities, and then we'll see what comes out of it. It's just what it is.
Well, the report is telling us.
In terms of service provision, they are still far better than the disco dancer.
I mean, the telcos are best. Since the privatization, they've actually been doing quite well if we are comparing. In comparison, they have their issues as well. Yes, but then the report further highlights that we might see a change in consumer behavior. So as opposed to making direct phone calls, the report is predicting that we might see people using internet application for phone calls. Yeah, so it will be more WhatsApp calls, or people using Telegram to call each other, or using Instagram to call each other, as opposed to dialing the other person. So once you buy data, you know that you're using that to browse the internet, and you're also using it for phone calls, as opposed to paying 16 naira per minute on phone calls. So consumer behavior might change, but then again, we have to take into consideration those who use non-internet phones. I'm talking maybe those in the rural area, the older demographic. My grandmother would not call you on WhatsApp, or
you call grandma. I said grandma. Our grandma likes to call.
Yeah, so they're not going to text you. Yes, they're not going to text you. They most likely don't even like phones that have WhatsApp. They prefer the smaller phone. So I mean, a certain demographic would actually, well, the word isn't suffer, but will be more inconvenienced by this change, as opposed to those of us here who would not make phone calls and just call via WhatsApp or send a voice message to whoever it is we're trying to communicate. So let's see what is going to be. Although, for like I said, these figures are based on 2023 statistics, so chances are they would earn more money, because we might have more people who are subscribed to their network now for 2025, because they're using 2023 statistics. So exactly, the numbers most likely would have gone up. So that 6 trillion naira that they are projecting will probably be more, because between 2023 and 2025 probably more people are now using their services. But let's
looking at big revenue here, but what about operational cost? It's just because again, we're saying 6 trillion and all that, but a lot of these service providers still run their own power systems, they generate their own electricity. They run on generators 24/7 in most parts of the country where they have to provide this service. I'm not making brief for them, and I'm not speaking for them really. I'm just saying that, look, we have to be a bit circumspect and fair in our conversations on these telco issues.
Well, implementation would start in February. That's next month. So you still have January to do everything that you want to do. It starts in February. And like I said, the Telecom Operators Association, they're insisting on going to court, on taking the matter to the court of law. So let's see how that goes at the end of the day. You have a right to approach the court if you feel slighted, so they can do that. Anyways, that story is on the front page of the Punch, and we have full details on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Moving on to other stories, let's talk about some of the inconveniences within the oil sector. So import license, court adjourns Dangote refinery's 100 billion suit against marketers. I was of the opinion that they had exactly for an out of court settlement. That's what I thought, that is especially after the whole naira for crude agreement, that the case had been withdrawn, but apparently it has not, and in fact it has been adjourned till 30th of January. Now, for those of you who are a tad bit confused and don't understand what we're referencing, following the operation of Dangote refinery, he actually did approach the court to prevent what's the NMDPRA now? I think that's the title, from issuing licenses to other refineries. He says that the PIA clearly states that licenses should only be given out at that pace if domestic supply, if there's the inability to meet domestic supply, well, then he's able to provide everything that we need. So he doesn't understand the need for issuing licenses. And then the response was, well, you're just a monopolistic person. You just want to be in charge of the market. Why are you upset that other people are getting licenses? And then they did go to court as well. Now the case has been adjourned till the 30th of January to hear the suit that was filed by Dangote refinery. Fouad, is there a need now to involve the law? I mean, they're already doing it, so we're not really talking about the court case, but we're talking about the idea behind it. And now that they've been able to reach some sort of consensus, I was hoping that the case would have been withdrawn. Well, what could you possibly think is responsible for Dangote's decision to forge ahead with this case?
Well, I don't know really, because it's looking a bit confusing now. Because the last time we had this same conversation, it was said that the case had been withdrawn or had been discontinued, although the case was initiated.
Yeah,
that's a fact. And again, initiated because Dangote had felt and thought that as a result of the PIA, there was really no need for continued issuance of license to importers, unless there's a shortfall in domestic supply. And so we had the back and forth, giving the background to the story. But I think that maybe somehow it's still a legal process to discontinue the case. That's why we still have a continuation of the case in court. I don't know. Maybe at the next hearing, we might see a situation where both parties will just agree to withdraw the case and officially and legally end the whole matter in court, out of court. Sorry, because again, I don't know what's again. I think the reality of the market now has gone past any Dangote refinery getting worried about issuance of licenses to marketers to bring in the product. It's now competitive. It's meant to be a market for players, market forces and all of that, both importation and local refinery. But I think that what we should be pushing for is a complete halt to importation of refined petroleum products. Since we can now refine what we use locally, and has also gotten to a point where we can refine, take care of our domestic needs and also export the product. There is really no need for anybody to bring in refined petroleum products into the country again. It does not even guarantee energy security in the country. What it means is that we are not giving enough support to our local refineries, which itself is not good. So we'll see whether at the next hearing we just hear that look, the case has been discontinued by both parties.
All right. Well, this is more a mid-page. That story is on page 6, by the way. This is more a mid-page story, but I thought to highlight it. Now, police disagrees as report alleges high crime rate in Lagos. The Lagos State Police Command has debunked a publication alleging high crime rates in the state. The command spokesperson, CSP Benjamin Hundeyin, refuted the report in a statement on Monday. He said the publication in a national daily on Monday with the headline "Concerns as Lagos State grapples with high crime rate despite closed-circuit television cameras" was false. Hundeyin claimed that apart from the story being stale, more importantly, empirical statistics have shown that the trust of the story is baseless and unfounded. Fouad, there was a report that crime rate in Lagos continues to increase despite the fact that we now have CCTV at almost every commercial place. People now have CCTV outside their house and what have you. The report is indicating that crime in Lagos State is not abating. Do you agree with that particular report, or do you agree with the Nigeria Police Force, especially the one, the Lagos State, where they're saying that, well, that report is false? There's actually empirical evidence to prove that we've been able to curtail crime in Lagos State. Is crime worse in Lagos, or you think it's actually better?
Well, if you were to compare Lagos with other states, you would say that Lagos is relatively better than, of course, the other states where you hear of kidnapping, bandits, and all manner of issues of insecurity. Of course, at least to the glory of God, in Lagos, we've not really heard of any situation that involves bandits or terrorists coming in to do anything. So, even the incidents of armed robbery, I think if you were going to be looking at what has happened in Lagos in the last, let's say, 5 years or so, you see that, look, we have not really gotten that kind of reports, of armed robbery and all of that. So, to that extent, you want to see that Lagos is safer, relatively safer than any other state in the country. Even compared to our next door neighbor, Ogun State, you understand that the crime rate in Lagos may not be as comparable to the kinds of things we'll be getting as reports from Ogun State. But it does not mean that we should not also pay attention to what the report is saying about black spots in Lagos. I read the report myself, and it's not for the Lagos Police Command to even think that, look, that report in itself is an indication of failure on the part of the police. What the report is saying is, look, there's more to be done. Yes, we have CCTV cameras, but Lagos is too dark. Where are the street lights? You have so many dark spots. There are also gang issues. On traffic in several parts of Lagos now, you have these boys banging your windows, banging your windscreen, harassing you for money. And at night, you can't just move around Lagos too, because everywhere is too dark. People are snatching phones. There's also the issue of one chance. Pickpockets are everywhere. That's what the story is talking about. And these things live with us. People's phones have been picked. You enter Marwa, you enter Kurope, there are boys who are operating. So it's not to say, oh, it does not exist as if all is well. No. Yes, we know that if you compare Lagos with other states, of course, the state is doing far, far better when it comes to the issue of security. But look, we can't take our eyes off the ball. We should also take note of what the report is saying about the dark areas, the dark spots, the gray areas when it comes to the security arrangements in Lagos. So our friend, Mr. Ondi, I don't know why he decided to go after the report. I would have thought he would have said that, well, what has he said in the report, we've taken note of it, would also improve our capacity, will improve our effort. We're working with the Lagos state government, of course, talking to them about some of the things that have been highlighted, and we can assure Lagosians that, look, all effort is being made to provide better security for them. And that's the matter than to go into because let me be very frank with you. There are places in Lagos, anything from 9 o'clock, you're on your own. I can tell you. There are some pedestrian bridges in Lagos that, look, immediately it's 8 o'clock, you dare not even try to use it. There are places in Lagos that when you drive, you just continue to beg God that these guys will not come after you. They come bringing down your neck, banging your whistle. So those are the things that have been highlighted in the report. And I must say that again, the city is too dark. The street lights are non-existent practically. And in darkness, crime thrives.
Well, thank you very much, Fuad. You're still listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. We're looking at the Punch newspaper. We're still streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM. You can join the conversation and, in fact, start to use the live chat option to drop your submission. As you know, before I start to take the most recent messages, I always take the backlog of messages that we have on our streaming platforms. You can also listen via Radio Guardian and the official website of Mainland FM, www.mainlandfm.com. Now, moving on to other stories here on the front page of the Punch, we have farmer header crisis. More northern state adopts Ruga to curb clashes. Now, in a move to address the farmer header conflict and also boost food production, several northern states have adopted the National Livestock Transformation Plan, popularly known as the Rural Grazing Area Initiative. So far, Borno, Yobe, Zamfara, Bauchi, Nasarawa, and others have mapped out a large swath of land for Ruga takeoff. The program is expected to complement the federal government livestock production plan, undergirded by the newly created Ministry of Livestock by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration. Now, while Borno State has settled 461 herder families under its Ruga initiative, Plateau and Benue, however, ruled out involvement in the scheme, and the Borno government inaugurated the Ngaran Livestock Improvement and Ranch Settlement in Mafa local government area of the state, designed to enhance livestock farming through the provision of infrastructure, improved grazing conditions, animal health services, and modern ranching practices. For years, we've always heard of farmer herder crisis, where farmers and herders have fought so much so that they have lost their lives. More like territorial battle. You cannot bring your livestock to my farm. They're destroying my crops. You're not allowed in this space and what have you. And ranching came up as one of the initiatives to at least make sure that both parties are comfortable. The animals are kept in a particular settlement. They are fed. They're taken care of, amongst other things. Well, that initiative has kicked off in some parts of the country to complement the livestock ministry that was set up. And like I said, we have places like Borno. They've created a settlement. Over 400 families have been settled there. So it's basically for livestock. It's something of a mini ranch. These animals are taken care of and they don't wander into the farm of anyone. Do you think that this is a rather creative solution, and an expansion of this would minimize the amount of farmer herder clashes that have been reported in the past?
Well, I think so, but you know, Sage,
Yeah.
the conversation around this Ruga thing has always been the attempt to force it on states
Mm.
that are not willing to adopt that program. You know, if you look at the states you've listed now, there are states in the northeast and the northwestern part of the country. But you can see that in the same report, north central states of
Yeah,
Plateau,
like
I think
Benue.
Kenya and one other that
Yeah, they're not
yeah,
interested.
they don't really want to be a part of it because again, it talks about grazing areas. You know, where you reserve grazing areas for these people, and the states are saying that look, we don't want it. It should not be imposed on them. If they have a different arrangement to take care of elder farmer clashes, why not? So I think that look, if this is well implemented, again, you know, there are issues of trust in all of these things. So people don't really know what to leave their land because the feeling is that look, once you bring in people, you know, you create a grazing route for them, it can become expanded to something that becomes problematic to the host community. So that trust deficit is there, see. Because ordinarily there was no trust issues. What's the big deal about having a grazing route or grazing area where people can graze and all of that? And then you can have farmers also on their own thing, doing their own thing without any clashes. But there are people who just do not trust, you know, tribes or you know, different tribes because they feel that look, once you allow your land for them to be taken over, they expand it and it becomes problematic for you at the end of the day. And I understand those sentiments really. I'm not going to be here to pretend as if those sentiments are not valid. So, but if there are states who think there's a best way to adopt this Ruga idea to end other farmer clashes in their states, oh, fantastic. I remember Gandiji was still the governor at that time who had told them that, look, if the North Central states say they don't want Ruga, there's enough land in the north. In the northwestern part of the country, northeastern part of the country for grazing. You understand? Although I know that there's a challenge of desertification. And that's why most of the elders are looking into the northern central part of the country for grazing. But I think that, look, since most of the elders are originated from the northwestern, northeastern part of the country, it will be nice to see how this new arrangement works for them. If it works, it makes it all good. There's the livestock ministry too to also help with funding. Abi?
Yeah.
So it's nice. Maybe that's why the livestock ministry came up in the first place to help with funding and such arrangements. So it's a nice one. We don't want these clashes again. So whatever solves it, we must welcome and appreciate.
Well, that report is on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. Other headlines that we have here: Sanwo-Olu pledges to work with new Lagos speaker. Well, it would seem like the governor is I have no idea. Would you like to translate? What is you as a proverb that you translate it?
The people that were urging the former speaker on, some of them we know. So you know they are now back with the governor. They've left the former speaker now in the post all by himself. Threw him under the bus completely.
He's giving a
He's now an orphan. He's now a political orphan.
He's not here yet.
But they were together, I'll say. I know what I'm saying. Some of the people who have now taken over, who have now pledged loyalty to the governor now. Because there was no way the former speaker could have been doing this in isolation. There would have been some people who were working with him, right?
Oh, guys, don't kill any. Why did you say that, Yoruba?
That's, you don't understand what I
Yeah. Well, he's
Man is now on his own.
So, with regards to financial misappropriation, right? I don't think they can really do anything until he comes to the country and he's actually here before they can.
I got a report from somewhere, I don't know, not verified though, that he's back in the country somewhere in Abuja.
Oh,
I don't know. It's not,
because because typically you'd expect that when he lands, the questions will be asked about the allegations of financial misappropriation amongst everything. So you just ignore the charge, the allegation rather.
It depends on how he behaves himself. You know that, look, if not for the disagreement, probably would not be hearing anything about whether it's so much or if you want.
Okay.
So going forward, whether the case will continue or discontinue, probably will be dependent on how he's also able to behave himself. And how he behave himself, how he's able to resolve his issues with the people he offended. Because if he had not offended people, all these stories will not be out. You understand what I'm saying? To the point where they even say he's not a lawyer.
Yeah, so it's now that they know that he's not
Anyway.
That's so now they do for you. Anyways,
that's so.
It's on page 6 of the Punch.
You allow people to push you.
Well, and finally, page 4 and 5, Ogun again in the news. 6 killed, 3 injured in Ogun. Multiple crashes. Very sad. Multiple crashes in Ogun State, and quite a number of people have.
And the reason for the crashes is very important. It would be nice to pick so that people understand
I'm going to
why we have some of these accidents. One recklessness, one fatigue. Guy was sleeping.
Well, 2 road crashes have occurred in Lagos-Ibadan expressway on Sunday. Punch Metro learns that the separate updates happened in Ogun State. And according to Odutola, the accident on the Lagos-Ibadan expressway occurred on Monday after the driver of a Benz lost control and crashed into the culvert along the expressway. She said the accident took place as the driver was heading towards Mowe. Upon reaching Fᴜဃᴜᴜ bus stop by the bridge, the driver lost control. The vehicle crashed into the culvert and flipped over. I'm trying so hard to look for the reason why this happened. It's just I'm using I have the papers now, and it doesn't capture it. It doesn't capture the why.
But I think the first one on Lagos-Ibadan was I think the guy was overspeeding, and all the occupants of the vehicle, I think but one died immediately. They said he ran into a culvert and flew to the other side of the road. The roof was completely off. Mercedes SUV. That one is overspeeding. There's no other thing about it. But for you to hit the culvert and fly to the other side, killing the occupants immediately, you will know that that's a case of overspeed. The other one was said the driver was sleeping. He has slept off.
Well, there's also obviously impact is usually commensurate with speed. So if the impact is that much, chances are he was driving pretty fast. But with regards to fatigue, but aside from fatigue, Lord have mercy, some of these drivers, the things that they indulge in before they get behind the wheels is scary. For people who use commercial buses, even whilst they are driving, you can see the danger in their mouths whilst they are driving. So, and then you're concerned, but then you can't say anything because you don't have a choice. I mean, all of them are probably doing the same thing. So, aside from fatigue, which I definitely understand,
you have a choice. So
people are calm down. Then that's what I'm saying. That the next driver is probably also intoxicated. That's what I mean by you don't have a choice. The next driver is probably intoxicated as well. They sit down together and they do these things together, especially if you go to the park or something like that. So, yes, people are in fact, people are more tired for 2024, 2025. People are exhausted. People are drained. So, it makes sense. Yes, people are very tired. Eye bags here and there. People don't talk anymore. They're losing their spark. But then, regardless, if you're doing a job like that one where the lives of people are in your hands, you have to be very careful your lifestyle choice. It's like a doctor who's an alcoholic. It doesn't make sense. People's lives are in your hands. You're a driver. You're taking your people's lives are in your hands. You have to be very, very careful the things you indulge in. Anyways, that's what we have for the Punch newspaper. I'm moving on to the Guardian newspaper now. 104 facilities to enlist as pilot phase record 2,809 beneficiaries, and we're talking about the federal government free cesarean session. Now, the Guardian sometime last month had highlighted that the federal government had pushed forward a free cesarean session for mothers. In fact, I think Lagos State also have one. Now, Lagos State kicked off months ago, but it now brought up the conversation around the state is a state, for example, is able to successfully pull this off. So, what's the delay with the federal government? Well, thankfully, we've gotten a response to that. 87 million has been disbursed. Agencies has partnered 72 healthcare facilities to boost coverage. 69 tertiary institutions are eligible, and 12 have already signed a memorandum of understanding. So the free cesarean session for women, the initiative by the federal government, has kicked off forward. We have a number of beneficiaries right now. So as a woman, if you like to have a cesarean session, maybe elective or due to pregnancy complications, there are arrangements by the federal government, although there are specific institutions that can do that for you, that are partnered up with the government. You can go get
the free cesarean.
Maybe for the sake of control and management is why they're starting small. I believe, because the report says pilot phase.
Being selective with institutions will also make it a problem.
Really? How?
So every pregnant woman that requires CS will go there or what?
There are multiple, facilities, and this is the pilot phase for it. They're more like tests.
Would it be enough to take care of the number of women that might need CS because it's now free?
Well, the phases, I believe the next phase they would think of
an expansion. And even that of Lagos, yes, commendable.
Yeah.
The cost, but people are also talking about the fact that, look, most of the women have to buy the drugs, buy this, buy that, and look, it's still a bit expensive for indigent pregnant women. If you understand what I'm saying, that sometimes, yes, the procedure itself is free, but the things you still have to pay for. The government still has to look at that. You have to buy the drugs, you have to buy injection, you have to buy this, buy that, and that sometimes you also have hospital officials, because they say it's free, they just misbehave. You understand that kind of attitude? And so they just misbehave and get the women so tired. So again, it has to be holistic. We also have to look at the cost of drugs and medication, because again, this is supposed to be for the poor of the poorest. People that are rich are not probably going to bother with it. And then the quality of service too.
Yeah.
Is also very important.
Well, it's on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. I'm unsure of unemployment statistics in Nigeria, says Labour Minister. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Mohammed Dingyadi, has said he wasn't sure of the statistics of unemployment in Nigeria. Let me quote what he said when asked about what the figures are, the unemployment figures are. He says, and I'm quoting, "We didn't know this question was going to be answered. I did not want to go into giving you figures that I'm not very sure of, but I want to assure you that we have these figures. I did not come with them. We have to coordinate them because all our parastatals and agencies are working on the issue of fighting unemployment. So we will coordinate and provide the committee with the figures. I know members of this committee are very serious and very intelligent." End of quote. In part, he said a lot more. So with regards to unemployment figure, he says he doesn't know it.
I want to beg you again. Can you read that statement again? Something I want to be sure he said something. Sorry.
I'm reading now in part what he said when asked on employment figures. "We did not know that this question was going to be answered."
You didn't know that they were asking the question. Okay, all right.
"I don't want to go into giving you figures that I'm not very sure of, but I want to assure you that we have the figures." He just did not know it in his head. It does not mean that it does not exist. He just did not memorize it.
Which minister is he saying?
Labour.
Unemployment. I does not know the unemployment figures in the country.
Deep sigh. But please don't stress me. He said he does not know. Fuad, he said they will coordinate and give us the figures. He just did not know it in that very moment. And don't know that they will.
He said they will coordinate and give us the figures.
Yeah, he said they don't know that they are going to give a report.
He didn't know that they were asking the question about unemployment figures.
Yes.
Tʀᴇ as the Minister of Labour and Employment.
Lord have mercy. Well, I mean, if I don't judge a man by one discrepancy.
By what?
By one discrepancy.
By kidding. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The Minister of Labour and Employment of Nigeria was asked the unemployment figures. He said, number one, I didn't know you asked me this question. Number two, I don't even have the figures. Number three, don't worry, we'll coordinate and then give you the figures later. Can you now see the quality of people we have in this place? And do you now wonder why most of them are just missing in action, hibernating, completely missing? What can this one do now as minister?
I mean, last we heard it was 4% based on their ILO calculation that they were using. It went from 33%, they reduced it to 4%. So maybe
are you a minister of Labour?
We talk about this like every single day.
So the minister does not know. Probably doesn't even listen to me.
He has other things like
he doesn't read the papers.
He's busy, please, leave this man alone.
Doing what?
It's on page 2 of the Guardian newspaper. We have to leave the studio. Let me just read the rest of the headlines. Healthy economy without impact on average Nigerians is worrisome, says senators. It's on page 3. Something of an editorial. They're talking about how these figures continue to insist that we're growing as an economy, but the average person tells a different story. We talk about economic growth, how we're now exporting more, yada yada yada, but then the average person, their disposable income continues to be depleted. And so senators are asking questions why the larger successes that are being discussed has 0 to 1 effect on the average Nigerian. It's on page 3 if you'd like to read that particular story. We also have here less than 1,000 mines are active as NMCO issues 7,000 mining licenses. They issued 7,000 mining licenses when we have just about 1,000 mines active. It's on page 3. Yeah, it's on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper, and we have reps declare Tinubu's 595 billion allocation to intelligence is inadequate. That's on page 4 of the Guardian newspaper. Well, that's about everything that we can really take for this morning when it comes to trends in the papers. We'll go on a break. When we come back, I will open the phone lines for Mainland Focus, where we would have chosen a story that we would like to further discuss. I'm Sage Babalola. Thank you very much for your time. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. This is the sound of Lagos, Mainland 98.3 FM.